Hey everyone, it's Meg. I'm really excited about this tutorial. I think this pumpkin house that we're going to be building today is super adorable, and I don't want to make this introduction too long, so let's get right into it. Here's a list of all the blocks you'll be needing for this house. I have them categorized by estimate, exact, and optional blocks. So when you add up all of the orange blocks under estimate, that's the total of blocks we'll need for the house, but as far as the amount of each individual type of block, that's up to you, depending on how you end up texturing it. So you'll want to get extra of all the orange blocks and the leaf blocks because we're going to be adding the texture in detail organically, and it could go any way you want it to. We're going to start by doing the basic structure of the house. It will fit in a 13 by 13 space, so it's very manageable. Go ahead and mark off this circle, then fill it in with the floor block. In this case, I'm using the stripped oak wood. I'm going to be building up the shape using a single type of block, and then I'm going to go back and texture it. If you don't think you have enough of one type of block, you could use a placeholder such as dirt and then go back and texture it later, whatever is easiest for you. I'm going to be using the orange terracotta as the initial block because it is going to be part of the final build. So once you have this first layer built out, let's go on to layer 2. We're just gonna keep adding circles around us until we get the full shape of the pumpkin. And we're just gonna trace around the whole thing with whatever block you want to use. Very, very simple. On this third layer, there's going to be a few more gaps in the walls, and those are going to be spots where we can eventually put a window. So this is the basic structure of the house, but now I'm going to use the rest of these orange blocks to texture it. We don't need the orange terracotta anymore because we already have it all everywhere, but depending on what block you use as a placeholder, you might still need it. But this is going to be my mid-tone. It's going to be the block that's kind of in the middle of all of the texture. I'm going to be taking the smooth red sandstone and kind of going around the base of the pumpkin. So I'm just going to replace some blocks around the base. And I'm just going to go around like this. I want to make sure to at least get all the bottom row replaced with this. But I want to just go around and just think about it like it's going up in little bumps, or think about how the pumpkin's got the different divisions in it. So I want the textures to kind of resemble that, even though this is such a small scale and you won't be able to tell very much. It's the idea that counts. Thinking through these things is what makes even the smallest of builds look more realistic. Next, let's take the pumpkin blocks and we're going to do something very similar from the top. Although this time I'm not going to go all the way around necessarily. I'm just going to put streaks of pumpkin going down, and this just adds a very bright orange to it just to give it more contrast, make it look a little more interesting. So I'm going to go from the middle. We don't have to put it in the exact middle, but I want to trace down the side of this almost like it's a big line going down. Just think of how the lines in the pumpkin go. And I'm going to do that just a few times. I'm not going to do it on every corner necessarily and not always going the same direction, but we just want to have big clumps of pumpkin kind of streaming down the sides of this. So as you can see, the number of blocks you need for this really depends on whatever you think looks good on your house. But once you have the pumpkins laid out like that, I'm going to take the acacia blocks and I'm going to fill in around the pumpkins and also around the whole top portion of the pumpkin, kind of like what we did for the sandstone. I'm going to go everywhere up here. Actually, I think I want my pumpkin to go into the middle. I think that will make more sense for me. So I just kind of undid what I did before, but that's okay. I'm going to take the acacia, and the first thing I'm going to do is trace around the pumpkins, maybe not all the way down, but at least along the sides. And I'm going to fill in a lot of these top sections with the acacia, but also have the ridge-like pattern poking through. So you don't want it to be a completely smooth gradient going down. You want to have the terracotta blocks also kind of leaking into the acacia, have them going up as well. And I am going to bring some of them a little further down. We do have a lot of extra space, so I want the acacia to be very visible. I'll just pull it down a little further in some places if I think it's needed. Once you have all of the texturing on the main house done, it could look something like this to give you an idea. I'm going to be taking the trapdoors and adding extra texturing with the trapdoors. So this is just adding another layer of texturing in detail to make the pumpkin look more like a pumpkin, to make it look like it has a rough edge to it. I really like how these acacia trapdoors have the lines going up, which kind of mimics the design of a pumpkin, although it's a very small scale. I just like that extra texture it gives. So what I did on mine is I just placed these randomly around parts of the pumpkin, and we can always remove some later if they get in the way, but just placing some of these randomly around to add some extra detail and texture. It doesn't matter which direction the trapdoors go. You can see that gray bar goes on both ends. It doesn't really make a difference, just start placing them anywhere you want. You can even put some more in the middle because the middle doesn't have as much texture as the top. So just spread them wherever you think more detail is needed. Once you've gone around with all of those trapdoors, let's add the stem and leaves on top. So for the stem, I'm going to be using the stripped dark oak, and we're just going to place a couple here in the middle. I'm going to go over one to this corner, have two more, and then I'm going to place another one angling out, so you should get this shape. Next, I'm going to take jungle leaves and moss blocks, and these will be the tendrils coming off of the pumpkin. You can use any leaf type you want. I like the jungle leaves because of the bigger texture of the leaf, and I just think it looks nicer on this. But I'm just gonna go somewhere from the middle. I'm just gonna start with the leaf only, and just kind of trace around down the pumpkin wherever I think I want these to go. I might remove some of these trapdoors just to allow for a better space. I'm also thinking about curving it down as I go down. So I want this to curve down this way. Maybe go up one. So this will just take some experimenting on your part, figuring out where you want these leaves to go and how you want them to attach. Once you have as many leaves as you want coming off, I'm going to take the moss block and just mix it in with these leaves. So replacing some of these with a moss block. And again, this is just for detailing to make it look like it's not all the same, to add some variety to the textures and just making the build look more detailed. Next I'm going to do the windows, and all of the windows are going to have jungle trap doors. It does kind of resemble a pumpkin, so it fits very nicely. On this window, I just realized that everything was wrong, because this one is supposed to have a wall on the inside. But I think this is the only one, so if you want to just fill in that side with an extra wall to make that window appropriate, go for it. I really don't feel like redoing that first part of the tutorial. So there's your fix for that. And let's go around here and fill in all of these. And once we fill in all of these, I'm gonna go on the inside and put a shroom light behind all of them. It might not look the best from the inside, but you could come up with something creative, maybe filling in these walls and covering this with another trapdoor or something. You can do something creative in here to cover up these, but it just looks really cute from the outside seeing those shroom lights through there. Next, we're gonna add a door here. We're probably going to need to replace that grass block underneath of it, but I like using the mangrove door because the reddish color really goes well with the pumpkin. The last thing I want to do is put a lantern in the front, and we can put an extra trapdoor right up here above the door for the lantern to go from, but we're gonna have to put it right there. So it's going to have to be the bottom half of this block. That way we can put a lantern on top. I think I'm also going to put a couple trapdoors here on either side of this, a couple more acacia trapdoors. And as I look at this, I'm going to make other minor adjustments if I think something else is needed. But for the most part, this looks pretty good. This house is now completed, so if you wanted to keep it just like this, you're welcome to. But I want to keep going. I want to add a little bit of stuff around the house just to decorate it up a bit. So I'm going to first make a little pathway using mossy cobblestone going up to the house. I'm probably going to have to replace this door because I do want this to go right in there. Let me do that first. Then I'm going to take this and just scatter it for a little ways going up to the house. And I'm going to mix in some of the mossy carpet too. So I'm going to mix some of that into the path, maybe put some on top, and just make a nice little entrance to the house here. And this could go longer if you had other paths to connect it to, but this is just to give you a general idea. Next, I want to put a couple of flower pots in front of the door just for that little extra homey touch. And then the last thing I want to do, I think because we have a pumpkin house, we need to create a pumpkin patch for it to be residing in. So here's all the things we'll need for a pumpkin patch. I didn't have these in my materials list, but these are pretty easy to get and everyone should have them at some point in survival. And let's just go around and start placing some of these. I'm going to be putting leaves inside of these because it'll blend it in nicely with the grass. So let's just put some water buckets down. I'm not putting these in any particular exact spot. I don't care if it's perfectly measured. I want this to look a bit random in the placement. Then we'll just plot out some spaces for the pumpkins to go, making sure to give them plenty of space to have a pumpkin to grow next to it. Then all we have to do is wait for them to grow. Thank you all for watching this tutorial. It turned out very cute, with just enough time for you to be able to build this and enjoy it this autumn. Hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I will see you later.